if the human was able to get his fast expansion out and continue his tier 2 tech unhindered, it's a really bad thing for the Nightelf player. So he's doing everything in his power to slow down this human player from getting any tier 2 buildings and kind of making the most of his economic advantage. He's trying to slow that down as much as possible while he's getting to tier 3. He's halfway to tier 3 right now, and the human doesn't have any tier 2 buildings up. He's almost got his workshop done, but he was forced to cancel 2 arcane sanctums, which is really, really good use of that harassment. Perfect timing there, works out really, really nice for the Nightelf player. You notice also that the Nightelf player is opting for he has Wand of Illusion he got from one of the creep camps. Now, usually when I get this, when I'm playing, I'll just sell that for the extra gold so I can make an extra few units, or it helps me with my tech a little bit. But the other good use for Wand of Illusion is to use it to scout. So he's using his Wand of Illusion to scout, and he scouts out the human player while he's creeping out the Fountain of Health. Very crucial to do at this point. You don't want to be creepjacked while you're creeping out this Fountain of Health, and it's one of the main creep camps of this map. You notice that the human didn't do any regular damage to the illusion, and he wasted a Stormbolt early from his Mountain King to try to kill it off, and thinking it was the real hero, but it was really only the illusion. So it's kind of a bad thing. Human player dropped a Scout Tower here, which you actually get from one of his Ivory Tower items. This is an okay thing to do if you're really wanting to know, kind of scout out the map and a little bit of a location. The human player's actually going to be opting for an expansion on the north side of the map, which is a really good idea when you're in this type of position because it's the furthest away from your opponent. It's going to be hard for him to get at. So he's basically kind of preemptively putting that Scout Tower there as kind of just an idea to see if his enemy's going to come get him. Sorry, I'm stuttering a little bit there, guys. Again, you're going to see another Wand of Illusion used on the Warden, just to do a little bit more scouting for the Nightelf player. A good way to determine if the thing you're going to be attacking is an illusion, just kind of use some common sense. Consider that if there's a lone hero that's seemingly vulnerable, click on him and see if there's a Wand of Illusion on it. If there's still charges of Wand of Illusion on there, there's a good idea that that's an illusion, and you might not want to waste your hero abilities on it. It's not that important to this human player at this point because he's got his Brilliance Aura, and he's going to be able to regenerate that Mountain King's mana, and he's playing very defensively to begin with. Both players now creeping out another expansion spot. They don't opt to expand there right away, though, so that's something else to go over there. I wanted to kind of discuss the options of Scout Farm compared to Scout Towers. I've seen players like half construct a farm. I've seen players, put a half constructed of a Scout Tower out just to kind of have a location with a little bit of vision on it. I really like the idea of fully fortifying with a Scout Farm. You got 5 fortified armor, on a farm compared to no armor on a Scout Tower, and if it's half constructed, it takes extra damage from regular attacks, so you definitely don't want to leave it half constructed, especially if it's an area where you really want to have that be scouted out for a good portion of the game. You notice where where the human player put the Scout Farm kind of in front of his expansion spot. This is going to be really good. This is going to give him a lot more extra time to get back to his expansion and save it. So watch this little fight going on towards the north of the Nightelf space there. There's 3 bears there, and the mountain. This is actually what you want to have as a Nightelf player. If you've done enough harassment and enough delaying, you should have bears versus your human opponent's footmen, which is really a big advantage there. Unfortunately, you'll notice in the human player's base that he's got a really, really nice little collection of Modar teams, mortar teams, and priests and sorceresses. So he's got a nice army to kind of counter those bears at this point. Ideally, when you have your first encounter with the human as a Nightelf, your first big encounter, you should have bears versus the footmen if you've done enough harassing and delaying of your opponent. Fortunately, in this game, the Nightelf player opted for a more creep-intensive build. You notice he's actually got 2 Scourge Bone Chimes. Well, he's got one on his Demon Hunter and one on his Warden, so he's kind of unlucky there with the items. Definitely a good idea to try to sell one of these and get a little bit of extra money to make more bears and kind of fortify your army. The name of the game now is fortifying your tier 3 advantage, and the human player now says, hey, I've been delaying enough, I'm ready to make a little bit of an encounter here, but he still doesn't want to make a big fight because although he's got a pretty good army and with a good enough micro, he probably could beat out a good amount of bears. He doesn't want to. He's going to play a very defensive kind of avoidance strategy, which works really, really well for human, because they're kind of a, you have to take patience when you play human. You know, just take your time, don't let anything get to you, just get the units you want, get to the point where you can almost just auto-attack the ground with your units and win the fight. If it means burning enough Scroll of Time portals, which we actually are going to see in this game, then that's okay, because you should have done a good enough job securing an economic advantage to where you can repurchase Scrolls of Town portal all the time, not a problem. So this is a pretty cool little idea, or pretty cool little move here. The human player was actually sending some peasants to try to expand at that spot that he cleared out, but he was intercepted by the Nightelf player. And seeing how far away the Nightelf player was from his expansion, and how close the human was to the Nightelf base, the Nightelf is now going to the natural expansion just to kill it. He's going to go, obviously, to kill it. Now, with all these he's got 2 upgrades on his mortar teams. He is going to be able to really quickly kill this Tree of Life. Ideally, what you want to do is bring all your units really, really close to that Tree of Life, because as soon as you get one hit on it, it's going to alert the enemy to your presence. But the Nightelf, or the human player, was able to do enough damage to that to actually make the Nightelf player burn a town portal, which he doesn't have a town portal right now on any of his, or it's got one on his Demon Hunter. It looks like he might have burned it on his Warden, and was able to kill off that expansion. So really bad timing now for that Nightelf, because he wasn't able to fully take advantage of the economic gain from that expansion. So now the human player is kind of on a hill. He's in a really bad position with his ranged and his casters. So he's just going to try to take out a few buildings. He was able to take out an Ancient Allure, which was way out front, and now he's going to be able to take out this Ancient Wind. But again, he doesn't want to fight this. Even if it's something that he thinks he can win with micro, it's just not worth it at this point, until he's just got such a huge army advantage that he doesn't have to worry. He was able to take out 3 buildings there, an Ancient Allure, Ancient Wind, and the shop. So it's really a big hit for the human player at this point. Or the Nightelf player. That was a really, really good move by the human player to do that versus the Nightelf. Now the Nightelf's kind of aggravated. He's got his 2/1 bears out. He's got a few fairy dragons. And fairy dragons do a pretty fair job of countering human casters, because generally human players of the average level play are going to be using slow for auto cast, and even if they manually cast it, fairy dragons in their mana burning form do a good amount of damage to the casters when they cast their spell. Since priests are going to be casting heal automatically relatively often, that's going to do a good amount of damage. Plus they do piercing damage, which counters the unarmored damage, or the unarmored casters. So we've got another fight here at the humans expansion. He's doing a really good job of kind of using what seemingly is a weak move for him. He's had just his Archmage in the back there to draw the Nightelf's army in to these, and kind of actually doing a really good job of spreading the Nightelf army out and taking a lot of hits from his 3 guard towers that he had at his expansion. Guard towers actually are in range of this fairy dragon here at the south there, which I'm shoutcasting a little bit, but definitely something you want to watch out for as your placement here. Slow is a really, really good counter to bears. Without any giants to dispel that, this is a really bad situation for the Nightelf. The Nightelf should have backed off right at this point, if not sooner. This is bad for him to be chasing into this fight, and he does have a staff, but he's only got one, and he can trade it between his heroes if he wants. But he's in a pretty bad position. Now the Warden's got Phantom Knives he's using, and again those two Scourge Bone Chimes, which are wasted here. Nightelf lost a big advantage. This is pretty much the turning point of the game. Was that fight right there? The human player played very defensively and was able to play the Nightelf into both his expansions towers and his main base. The tower defenses he had there, and was able to really hurt. Now let's check out look at the food count. We have 52 army compared to 79 food, so now the human's got a significant army gain here. You can switch it back to the observer's point of view if you want. I pressed F11 to get to check the food counts real quick, just to kind of filter through them. You'll notice both players doing a pretty good job of trying to scout out these expansion spots, and the Nightelf player is actually now entangling a gold mine with a regular Tree of Life, kind of on the opposite side of it's actually the regular spawning location on the west there. It's a pretty good location. I would have actually opted for this earlier on in the game. I would have opted for this location over his natural expansion, if at all possible, as to give him that more of an advantage. The Nightelf player really should have sold these Scourge Bone Chimes. I know I've said it a lot, but it's a really wasted item to have that ore twice on both your heroes, and it sells for a good amount of money. Definitely enough to probably make an extra bear or so. And now you notice the Nightelf player is kind of opting for more of just a mass bear strategy. Now the human's army composition is really well mixed. This is really good to counter bears. He's got spell breakers, which are going to, every time they do an attack, is kind of a mana burn effect, and they also don't take damage from mana burn from the Demon Hunter. They're actually a pretty good counter. They're kind of the upgraded Footman as it. I don't even know what I'm saying. There's no really magic that the Night Elf player is using at this point, so they're not good for their magic community. But they are good because you can get them in mass, and they're kind of like Huntresses where you can focus fire their normal damage, which doesn't really do anything versus the Bears. But just a nice kind of front line there. It's good. It would probably better to have Knights, which we are going to see for the human player.